And we're back. No. Hey, how's it going down there?
Going good. We been off for a few days now.
Yeah, we got to come back with something big here. This would just be a lot easier if you were just in Missouri.
It would be. Hey, hold on 1 second. I got a little feedback on this mic. Let me come right back.
Yeah, I'll cut you off here. That was quick.
All right. Now I'll do it a little bit better.
Our first live in person.
Trying to keep our social distancing appropriate.
It'd be really cool if we could finally get BH to be on the show.
Yes, that would be nice. He's been the hardest one to get on this whole thing, although we are the closest with it.
I'm not doing your stupid show. I refuse to do it.
Just come sit down in this chair.
Yes. Ready for you.
All right. First ever, all live and in person here.
Yes. Here we go. Very reluctant to do this.
I think you wore the cactus shirt for this one.
That's right.
We all dressed up for this. Let's start off with the topic that's been on top of our minds lately. This is my notes. Michael Jordan, The Last Dance. It's good stuff. We talked about this a little bit on our own, but don't try to look ahead on my questions.
I can't see your print like that, so it doesn't matter. You can be right in front of my face. I'd have to hold it like this. So.
What do you think wrestling people could learn from The Last Dance, the Michael Jordan documentary it's been on lately?
I mean, as far as wrestling people, I think right now, like I talked to you guys about, I think in just today's society alone, but especially it seems like in the wrestling community, big masculine, like not really even authoritative figures, but masculine figures and
No nonsense people.
yeah, the old school way of thinking is really frowned upon. You hear a lot of people bash it nowadays, talking about how kids, don't respond to this or don't respond to that, and how the coaches have to adjust to this and have to adjust to that. I think one thing the wrestling community can take away from it is, MJ, at the end of the day, he didn't care if you responded to this or that. He was going to be who he was going to be because he wanted to win, and that was the bottom line, and he wanted to take you along with him. He even, talks about that. But he was old school, and he's even to this day unapologetic about it. And I think that still works in today's culture. You don't have to be, everybody wants to be out front on the cutting edge of what's going on, per se in the wrestling world, but that's not, sometimes that isn't what works. Just be who you are.
I think that's something we talked about, which was like people are kind of, for people that have watched it, they're kind of like, man, he was mean, he was a jerk, you know. He basically, what people are neglecting to see there is that he had relationships with all those guys, and he was like their leader. So he was just leading kind of the hard way sometimes, but it's not as cool to probably show whenever he was building relationships with them. That's not what the cameras really want to see. They want to see the, you know, hardcore leadership, you know, him being tough on guys, which he all was, probably along with building a relationship with them, you know, in the locker room and practice when people weren't even watching. So I think we talked about this, but when you have invested time with people, which he obviously invested time with them, you can be hard on them sometimes, but because you've invested that time, you know, that they respond to you. There's a relationship there already.
It's it's like, you know, you invest time, you go to war with those guys. You know, you hear those guys talk about that even in the MJ documentary. Like, he talks about that dude that he hassles all the time.
Burrell.
Yeah, Burrell, and how he was just the nicest guy ever. But he was like, there's going to be a time that we need him, you know? So when we were in war, I knew we were going to need him. It's the same in really any profession. People like MJ talks about, and I think people are really going to dislike me and not like me for this whole deal that comes out, and they're going to think I'm an asshole and stuff, which I think the majority of people have liked him even more, but it's that way in any type of field that you go into. So, for instance, you know, we're talking about wrestling, but on another completely different field, like I work for the KCFD, a guy who I'm about to go work for and is going to be my captain, Sean Seidel, is not, you know, highly, just like MJ, liked, because he's what in the fire department you call a red ass, who is a hard ass and who is constantly on you, but he's on you because he wants you to be as good as he is, you know? And
As good as you can be.
Yeah. He doesn't want you to fail for the team, which is the guys that's on your rig, you know? Just like MJ or anybody else in the wrestling community on a team or a coach doesn't want you to fail for that team. He doesn't want you to fail for those guys that are on the rig, just like that. So he's going to push you and push you and push you. And he's going to call you out when you mess up. He's going to be on your ass when you mess up. But that's part of the deal, you know?
Yeah.
So, but you see a lot of guys that are like, well, I don't want to work for that guy. He's just always an ass to him. He's just this and that. He's so hard on him, blah, blah. What they don't see, just like they don't see with MJ, is the behind the scenes stuff when, you know, MJ is building a relationship with those guys and he's like, hey, listen, yeah, I was hard on you yesterday, but today you were freaking awesome.
Yeah.
And that's the same, you know, thing with, just using an example, in the fire department, Sean Seidel, he's hard on you, hard on you. And then you're at a fire and all of a sudden you do something right, or you're at a car accident or a cardiac arrest, and all of a sudden you do something right. And then they don't see that off the scene in the rig or back at the firehouse, he's like, hey, man, that was freaking awesome what you just did. And so that's the relationship that you have. MJ was able to get on those dudes and do what he did because he had a relationship with them.
Yeah.
Sean Seidel is able to do what he does and get on those guys because he has a relationship with them.
Yeah. To kind of take it back to wrestling, it's like if you are coming to wrestling, you are basically choosing to do the ultimate. If you break down, it's an individual challenge of a sport, right? It's a challenge. That's why you did it. People don't do wrestling. It's like, this will just be a, kind of an easy thing I'm going to try out. Like they wanted a challenge if they're going to stick with it. So sometimes when you're getting challenged and your coaches are challenging you or your teammates or whoever, sometimes that's going to be a little rough. Sometimes that's going to look a little bad to the outsider, or maybe it's just not going to be nice all the time. You know what I'm saying? But you came for the challenge, and the challenge is for you to get better, tougher, be a better person. So the challenge, I guess some people, I don't even want to get into this whole thing, but some people on, social media, they're like, man, Jordan was such a bully. No, he's just challenging people to be better. And obviously those guys rose to the occasion on that, you know what I'm saying? So for wrestling, we've always said, we even said this at Grain Valley, that was like the thing, accept the challenge. If you want to reach your max potential in wrestling, you gotta accept the challenge, which is going to be not something that looks good to the outsider. Sometimes it's going to be tough. It's going to be rough,
I mean, sometimes you're going to have your coach jump down your throat. I've had parents get on me for getting on kids before and yelling at me for getting on their kids. Well, in reality, I just saw more in their kids, expected more in their kids, so me jumping down their throat is a compliment to them.
Mm-hmm. They're capable of more.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
And you're coaching them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But some people view that, like we said, and how MJ portrays it before that came out, he was like, some people are going to think I'm just straight up asshole when you don't know the backstory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They just see the wins in the end. They don't see how the sausage is made.
Yes.
Basically.
I don't see what goes into that whole thing.
Change gears here for a second. Let's talk about something, a common thread in a lot of our talks has been, if you look at the other ones we've done, it's like, what is the non-linear path that you were on that led you to this point? And it's kind of interesting. So I just want to talk about like the relationships that you build in wrestling, kind of a non-linear path, because obviously if anyone's watching this, they probably know us. So we've all spent a lot of time together. We obviously, we've like been sharing, road trips and just hotel rooms at Fargo and other random, not cool places for multiple years. And I want to talk about the nonlinear path that wrestling can take you on in relationships and how much people should really appreciate that aspect of it. Because just to tell a story, so Brent's from Oak Park, from Kansas City, wrestled in Mizzou. Obviously, everyone knows a lot of that stuff. Jesse's from Arizona. I'm like not a wrestler. And then flash forward to, I don't remember what year it was. I don't know, 2020.
When he was at Black County?
Talking about Iowa City.
Oh.
So like 2016 or something. I don't know. We'd gone on several road trips at this point together. And we were pulling up to this hotel in Iowa City to watch Dom wrestle in the Olympic trials. And Brent said, man, I imagine going on this trip and a lot of these trips many times. Didn't expect it to be with you two. So I don't know. You guys just want to talk about not us specifically, but just some of the, how wrestling and these trips help you build relationships that are unexpected but good sometimes. You can talk about even back whenever you were wrestling and you were in high school, some of the people you maybe spent time with or whatever, coaching, whatever, it doesn't matter.
I mean, wrestling just shapes you as a person, I think. But the trips, I think, are what, being on the road with guys, just going places. I feel that's why I'm big on, taking my kids, going, that I coach, and going to college duels, going to camps, going to different tournaments while we're all together. I just feel like it just builds you, when I was a kid, some people go on those and they kind of shut themselves off and they stay in their little clique and that's all they ever do. When I was a kid, I was very fortunate. My dad would take me tons of places, so I made a lot of different friends, whether it be at Jordan's camp, the Granby camp, Southern Plains when I first met Randy and all the competitor kids. But you go on these things and relationships that you think won't happen. So for instance, when I first met, and I knew him before that, but I first met like Randy and Earl and the competitor kids. I knew of them before because I wrestled at Northtown, and we would go to tournaments and we would run past them and flip them off and give them the sucky sign, which was popular back then.
Still cool.
And then they would me and actually Tyler St. Louis, who I started off wrestling with, and then they would just beat on us at the tournaments. But then I went to a Southern Plains camp, and I was like, I'm never going to be a part of competitors. I'll always be. And at the time, the club was the Northtown Cobras. I was like, I'm always going to be a Cobra. Always be Northtown Cobra. Well, then I met him at the Southern Plains deal, and then next thing you know, it's football season. Randy's coaching the Sharks football team, 5th and 6th, and I think I was in 5th grade at the time, and he's coaching us. I can still remember we're sitting outside the trailer, and all before this, I had been like, I'm not going to competitors, man. Screw those guys, blah, blah, all before this. And then we're talking outside the football trailer, and he's like, why don't you come over and wrestle with us? And something that I never thought I would do. And all of a sudden, I'm thinking in my head, and I look at him, and I'm like, look at my dad, who's standing right beside me. And my dad wanted me to, but he wasn't going to pressure me. And I was like, okay, I'll wrestle for you guys. So then an unlikely relationship that I never thought would happen, happened. And that's kind of how things started for me, Went to Jordan's camps, formed relationships with guys out in Ohio, Michigan, like John Reeder, Ben Bennett. Man, I can name tons of guys that we went to camps with. But then, even as it still happens, wrestling gives you these relationships and networks with these guys. You still find yourself in relationships that you never thought would happen because, like you guys were saying, it was 2013 or 14, right after my senior year in college, I went and coached at Platte County with Reggie. He
makes an appearance in every show.
He called me, and he had helped coach me when I was in high school and stuff. And he called and asked me if I wanted to help him coach high school, and I was like, yeah, I'm down for that. So went up, coached with him, and we were at the district tournament. And I remember we were at districts at Staley High School. It was the finals, and maybe it was a semi, something like that. But you two were sitting in the corner, and I looked at Reggie, and I said, "Who are these two?" And Reggie's like, "Oh, that's James and Jesse. They're pretty good guys." And I was like, I mean, my mentality is, if I think you're good, then I don't like you because I want to take you out. Or if other people think you're good, I don't like you because I want to take you out. So he was like, yeah, they're pretty good guys. And you guys had a pretty good team. And I was like, man, screw those guys. Screw them. You know? I was like, these young dudes think they're going to come in and take over my state? I don't think so. So, I mean, before that, I thought Green Valley was in Kansas.
There might be.
So I was like extremely confused why you guys were at the district tournament.
Who invited these people?
But he was like, yeah, pretty good. No, and that's when I was like, man, screw these guys. I'm going to take these dudes out. So from then on, I want to take you guys out. And that's when the whole thing started with going to the Iowa Place Hotel for those trials. Or was it the trials?
I think it was
The year before was the trial.
World Cup.
World
wasn't it?
Cup. Yeah.
So we went to World Cup, and I'm sitting there in the van or in the in your car, and I was sitting there and I was thinking, man, like 3 years ago, I can blatantly remember me telling Reggie, screw these guys. And now I'm sitting in a car with them, about to share a hotel room with them, you know. I think GP was with us.
Yeah. The year GP was with us, you and Dom were and GP, and I was like, who the heck is this random kid who's on the trip with us? And then the next year we were in the hotel. We stayed in the same horrible hotel 2 years in a row, by the way. I just want to try, which is I'm going to throw to a clip, which is, talk about this picture, guys, and what comes to mind when you see this picture. This is the hotel. That's the whole room, by the way. That's the whole room. Yes, there was one bed. There was a recliner.
So I could just set it up by saying that we had stayed in this same hotel the year before for the 2016 Olympic team trials. And so this is 2017 World Cup in Iowa City. And we really, all three of us talked about it, and we're like, come on, we can go back. We can conquer the Iowa House Hotel. This is the image of us upon entering the hotel and re-examining its layout and accommodations.
The year before, like I said, he and Dom and GP were in their room, and then it was me, Jesse, Hag, and Cox in the room. And they didn't like the rooms, but there was room for all those people, in theory. Not really, but especially whenever Cox is one
the year
of them.
before.
Yeah.
Sean Trey, Dom's cousin, who was bigger than Dom at the time, came down, and it was the two black guys, the one, me, who thought he was black, and then GP. GP was sitting in the bed like, what is about to happen?
So we walked into this room the next year. It's like, we can conquer this hotel. Jesse kept saying that. We opened the door. Yeah, this is like one double bed recliner. I was like, I don't think we're gonna get this one, guys. I don't think we're gonna conquer it. So that was the disappointment. I like that picture a lot because it captures wrestling trips perfectly.
They are the best, worst trips you've ever been on. You get to go to a lot of great places like Tulsa, Oklahoma.
It's great.
Fargo, North Dakota.
Dodge City, Kansas.
Yes, Dodge City, Kansas. I mean,
Rochester, Minnesota.
don't forget that one.
Yes.
The worst.
These are hot spots for vacations.
Most people plan their whole summers around
Yes.
those locations, you know. At least we did.
Beersford, South Dakota. It's just one final one.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's more where that thing goes. Let's talk about, what do you think, speaking of those trips, speaking of Fargo, everyone's pretty unfocused, about wrestling right now. I feel like people are kind of trying to scramble on what to focus their mind on. Even now, even though, we were like, the reason why Jesse's here at work, we're 2 months into quarantine. Quarantine's over, quote unquote, but not really. But, these USA events and different things, they may not happen. People are trying to scramble, figure stuff out. And it's not ideal circumstance right now, but what do you think that maybe kids could focus on? Not just talking about the strength condition, we talked about all that, but there's no wrestling maybe. There's just no wrestling maybe. Where do kids go with that right now? How do kids approach this summer? Maybe no wrestling.
I mean, there's a lot of facets to that. For juniors who, are kind of on that bubble of getting recruited to, on a bubble of like a D1 and D2 school. This does throw a wrench in what's about to happen for him, because that's hard for a college coach to gauge his recruitment now with not having basically anything to go off of, because a lot of college coaches rely on the summer because of what different states are like. So that's really hard to compare that to like a middle school, grade school kid who is just trying to improve on things and get to that level.
Yeah.
So I think when you talk about, the grade school and the middle school, I think it's important to, for those kids that, if you can't get on a mat, then it is important to do the physical side of things, do push-ups and pull-ups, do your air squats, stuff like that. But it's also important to improve your mental game.
Yeah.
For the older guys who now they might not get that shot, I think the mental game is huge right now. Not only in coming to terms with what is happening with you, in your current situation. A guy that comes to my thought right now is like a Cage Linger, who I think is a D1 wrestler, but he, kind of needed this summer to solidify that he's can be a Division I wrestler. I think he can have success at the Division I level, Division II, any level that he goes to, but he needed this summer to really solidify, hey, I can do this. For a guy like him, I think it's important to concentrate on the mental aspect of it. And I wish I would have done it when I was his age, realize how small wrestling is compared to everything else in life. I think we as a community get caught up in, oh man, this wrestling deal is so big, when really we're like a blimp on the radar.
Yeah.
So I think it's important for like guys like that to realize, maybe I won't have the colleges calling me this summer and, what I thought was going to happen. But if I focus on my mental game, do little side workouts, like doing my push-ups, my pull-ups, everything, and gear up as well as I can for things like Super 32 or the folk style season, that I'm going to put myself in a position to get those looks later on.
Yeah. That's a good point, actually, about, well, first of all, I want to say Cage has a lot of different interests just to throw him a bone. So he's a guy who's balanced himself well. So, like as far as obviously he likes wrestling, but I mean, he's got other interests. That's good. Some of these people who maybe only have wrestling, they're really struggling right now.
Yeah.
And you see a lot of people, there's a lot of uncontrollable things right now. And so people are thinking, well, I want to control the fact that I can wrestle. And it's driving them crazy because you can't do that right now. You gotta focus on other things. And quick side note, what you're saying is, colleges are thrown for a loop too. The normal things they would do to look at a kid or judge a kid, that's not there. So don't count out that, like you said, they might be looking at a Super 32 or some other. They might be looking at something different too. So get your mind right. So when that opportunity comes, you can take advantage of it, because it's not like someone's getting ahead of you by wrestling Fargo. No one's there right now. You know what I'm saying? So I want to say this though, thinking about throwing it back to Jordan thing, because we've been talking about it a lot. We're obsessed with The Last Dance right now, but what year did Michael Jordan, or 18 months did Michael Jordan use to get his mind right for the second run that he put on? Was he playing basketball? No, he took a break. Sometimes, even though we hate it, sometimes you taking a break is how you're going to get your mind as good as it needs to be when the opportunity comes again. You know what I'm saying? So
I think that's a big part that some of the people in the wrestling community are kind of. I get the whole part of these coaches still.
We're all obsessed. We all wish we were there.
Pushing for things like a TJ Siebel, he has to make his payments on his facility.
Yeah, it's business.
So he needs those practices. Us three, you two being high school coaches, me being a club coach and being afforded the situation that I'm afforded right now, I don't have to make payments towards anything.
Yeah.
So it is a kind of a different situation. I understand why some of these coaches are shoving Zoom meetings down these kids' throats and still pushing practices now. But at the same time, this time off actually is pretty good for both parties involved. What I mean by that is these kids are getting a break from everything. They're getting to do something other than just being on the mat.
Yeah.
They're getting to have a normal high school life, which is good.
Yeah.
A lot of wrestlers are not multi-sport athletes. So them getting a 3-month hiatus from this is just like them getting a 3-month hiatus by playing football or going out for track. It's the same thing. Personally, I think one of my biggest things that hurt me in college is I didn't have a 3-month hiatus that I had in high school where I had my football season. I would come in the wrestling season refreshed, where I could push through the folk style and then still be ready to go for freestyle and Greco during the summer, because that was big in Missouri.
Yeah.
Whereas college, it's a grind. That is the one sport you're doing. So I think it's good for those guys to get a little break. I also think it's good for coaches to get a break. I'll be honest. I was broke this past year, extremely broke. And I'll be the first one to admit, I think I have this past year turned a little soft in my coaching tendencies, just in the way that I have gone about things versus how I have gone about things in the past. But this whole break that we've had has not only refreshed me, but then having things, I've had free time where I've been able to reread Tim Grover's book, who was Michael Jordan's trainer, been able to watch this Michael Jordan documentary. It's kind of reinvigorated me to realize, like, man, the things that I was doing in the past are fine. Because I'll be the first one to admit, I kind of got caught up in the whole, like you hear Ben Askren and those guys kind of push, which they're not necessarily wrong, but they villainize being tough on kids, being tough on people in general. Like, you can do that. Just like we talked in the beginning, you can do that as long as you have relationships with them. So I kind of steered away from that on being tough on people because I viewed it as an old school mentality. Old school mentality is still fine, So I think this break has really invigorated me in that sense, where now I'm, and having these things that are going on, being able to reread that Grover book, being able to watch this MJ documentary, being able to just get free time off the mat where I'm away from it, it's been extremely good for me too. So
yeah, I was gonna say, I'm gonna go back to the idea of, like, there's only one way to coach a kid. Like, either you're tough or you're nice or whatever. Like, it's all about the person, individual. Like, every other good coach we talk to on here is like, we're talking about Gable. Doesn't matter. Anyone we talk to is doing the same thing. Kinsey talking about what he's learned over the years. All these guys. It's about finding what works for that kid. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have this whole theory. I'm not going to give the whole thing, but basically, if there's a scale of 1 to 10, which 10 is being hardcore and using some negative reinforcement, and maybe 1 is just being all loving. There's different kids need different parts in that scale at different times. It's not just like one size fits all. I'm saying, like, all right now they need about a 3. Other times, they might need a 9 or a 10. It just depends on the kid. So that's what coaching is: knowing the kid and
knowing the kid and knowing the situation.
Yeah,
is a big part of it.
I got some true false questions for you, Brent. Lighten it up there for a second.
Lightning round.
Yeah. True or false? You were kicked out of the Greco State tournament in the first 12 minutes one year.
That is true. Might have even been less than 12 minutes.
Might have been 12. Being generous.
Not even sure. I just know that I am undefeated. Or not undefeated.
Completely defeated.
Completely defeated. I can't even get a win against Garrett Labelli at all. At all.
So you got him, Garrett. You got him. And you got him kicked out of the tournament too. Good job. True or false, you had a girlfriend break up with you the day before we went to junior duels because you were going to junior duels?
Well, junior duels had something to do with it. The main part of it was that she, and I quote, this is what she said to me as she was breaking up with me: "I'm tired of competing with a 15-year-old," referring to Pinner.
Yeah.
About
the coaching.
Yeah, competing with time or something. I don't know. But as soon as she said that, I can remember we were at the Plaza, downtown at the Plaza.
A lovely evening.
Yeah. Kansas City. And I can remember she said that, and I looked up at the ceiling and I thought to myself, well, this is where you either choose you're going to let her stop competing with him, or you're going to keep doing what you're doing with him and the rest of your kids. And I was like, well, see you later. So I said, see you later, walked out, and the next day, that was when I was with you guys. And we were on our way down to Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I remember we were just sitting there, and I was like,
it was a quiet moment in the car.
yeah, just want you guys to know. Oh, because before that, too, also, she had dogged you two for me hanging out with you guys all the time. She had dogged on you guys, and I said, I just want you guys to know that I chose you two, GP, and wrestling over my girlfriend. And you guys are like, what do you mean? I said, well, we're broken up. She didn't want me to go to junior duels, but here I am.
Yes.
Best place to drown your sorrows emotionally is in a stinky hotel room. That one wasn't stinky. That was a very nice hotel room for us in Tulsa. You know.
And they actually had those ready on time.
Yeah,
Double check.
that was nice. Not waiting until 9 o'clock at
Nice.
night to get in there.
Yeah, 3 years after that. Jeez.
That happened. When we moved you out of an apartment in downtown Kansas City, what happened to most of all your furniture? Not in detail. I'm saying, where did it go? Yeah.
Well, anyone that knows me knows I hate moving. Absolutely hate moving. I mean, I'll do anything to get out of it. I'd rather move somebody else than move myself. So, much like when I moved out of my apartment in Columbia, Missouri, which I left a bunch of clothes in and other belongings just because I didn't want to take them, not because they weren't good.
Same with this furniture.
Yeah, when I moved out of that apartment in downtown, I had you guys come over, and I was like, man, this will be a couple trips if I really want to move this stuff. I don't really want to move it. So I took what I wanted. We put all my furniture down by the dumpster.
In an alley. We made a nice
Yeah.
living room set
And
for the hobos.
I'm sure some hobos had a really nice couple of nights on there before they came and they grabbed everything. I was, I'm always trying to help the community.
Yeah,
Right. Civic duties.
I would
That's
really
right.
appreciate that in these challenging times. When you were a kid, you went to a Garth Brooks concert. What did you wear to that?
It was more like, what did my family wear to it? Well, it wasn't a Garth Brooks concert. It was the American Royal.
American Royal.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
My dad got us tickets to that every year
Mhm.
because my dad's a big horse guy.
Mhm.
He owns racehorses now and stuff in his retired days. But he would get us tickets to the American Royal every year. And I don't know, I forget till what age, but I just remember 2 distinct years. One year was Garth Brooks, and the other year was the Charlie Daniels Band, because I just remember those two. One, I remember Garth Brooks because we all had to wear, he came home and bought flame shirts.
That's cool.
So,
Let's pull a clip.
oh,
Dang it, I gotta pull it up. Let's see. I just want people to have the visual because maybe not everyone's as comfortable with their 90s knowledge as we are.
yes, that was, so me and the rest of the family,
It was this, right?
which is me, my sister, and mom and dad, we wore these shirts
This is not Garth Brooks, by the way. This is definitely an impersonator. But
to the rodeo,
whole family.
the entire family.
This shirt was big in the
So,
90s.
we wore those, and I guess it was an homage to the song "Standing Outside the Fire." I guess.
A classic.
Year after
Great
that,
song.
we wore Looney Tunes rodeo shirts to the rodeo. But that was the See Charlie Dance Band, and I was pumped about that one because I was a huge The Devil Went Down to Georgia fan. So
Let's see if I can find this one. Let's see. Looney
this one
Tunes
was an instant classic.
cowboy shirt. We'll see, Google machine. We'll see what we
It
got.
had all the characters on it. It was black and white.
Is this it?
Yes. There it is.
1 second. Let me get a good zoom in here for everybody to
Yes.
see. And
All four of us just dressed to impress in that shirt.
Looney Tunes rodeo shirt. There it is. It's got Taz.
Yes.
Also a
Yeah.
90s classic.
As everybody.
Oh. I didn't know if Jesse knew that one. He told me that one about a month ago. You once won a parlay. This is a couple years ago. Just tell the scenario because it's I don't want to ruin it.
Monday night Chiefs game.
Oh yeah. I forget what all games I won before.
It was like 5 college games,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
It was like 5 college games, and then there was it was like an 18 parlay. 18 parlay, and I put $20 down to win something like $2,500 or something. I forget how much it was, but it was $2,000 or more. And I had won everything, and I just added the Chiefs game against the Redskins because I was going to the game just for fun. So we're going to the Chiefs and Redskins games because Cody Compton's brother, Will Compton, who does the Bussin' with the Boys podcast, now obtained by Barstool Sports.
Dang, can't we get on
So
Sunday?
he has all the hats that are for the boys and stuff. Him and Taylor Lewan, who is the offensive lineman for Tennessee, he was playing for the Redskins at the time. So Compton's brother, Cody, they both wrestled, but Cody grew up with me and Kyle Bradley and Dom, a couple of us. So he got us tickets to the game. Well, we go to the game. I'm like, man, it'd be cool if I win. If I don't, it's whatever. This is what I basically wanted, was it to come down to this game so I could be here and have a chance at winning however much money I was going to win. So we're there, and the whole time it's a awesome game. I'm just sweating like crazy and drenched.
Nothing unusual here.
So get in a position to win the parlay. The Chiefs had to win, I think it was by like 6 or something.
6, yeah.
Something like that. Well, they're gonna win by, I think it was 5 or maybe 3, something like that. Well, I've just given up on the whole situation. I'm like, whatever, it is what it is. At least we had a good shot here with my friends. Blah blah. Monday Night Football. I've had a blast. Sweating my ass off. It's the last play of the game. Kirk Cousins still playing for the Redskins. He drops back, and I'm not even really watching. I'm looking over this way. We're in the end zone. I'm looking over this way. He drops back, goes to pass, fumbles the ball. The Chiefs pick it up and run it in for a touchdown, making me win the parlay. I'm going absolutely nuts. I mean, berserk.
Justin Houston.
Couldn't stop telling everybody in the arena that I had just won.
I'm sure there was somebody there that was like, dude, who cares that you just won $2,500? That's chump change. But I was so ecstatic because I didn't think it was going to happen. But the last play of the game, Kirk Cousins somehow fumbled it, and we won it. Justin Houston ran it in, didn't knee it or anything, ran it all the way in. Ever since then, I've been a big Kirk Cousins fan. I'm a huge proponent of him getting you paid.
Instead of us just telling one story, I got several more things here. But talk about real quick. Brent's a big WWE fan. Him and Dom went to an event together. Talk about the fan who was sitting next to you.
Me and Dom went to, it was either the 500th or the 1,000th Monday Night Raw show. And Dom is one of the very few people I've ever met that is just as big a fan of WWF, like history-wise and everything, as I am. So we were in college, nagged my dad into buying us tickets. They were super close. So we buy the tickets, go down there. It's in St. Louis. The show was awesome. They're bringing back everybody. HBK, D-Generation X, Stone Cold is there. I mean, it was unreal what we got to see. And we're sitting there in the main event. I forget who CM Punk was wrestling at the time, but he was real big. Hadn't gone over UFC yet. And
That barely
he's
lasts.
getting just mollywopped. I forget by who. He's just getting mollywopped by somebody. And I can hear this guy behind us going, no, how could you do that? No. And I'm like, what is going on? So I turn around and I look. This dude, straight up dweeb, is decked out in CM Punk gear. And I'm not talking like, oh, he just has like a CM Punk shirt on. He like slicked his hair back. No. This little dweeb did both of those things, then had like the fake tat thing going on.
Sleeve.
Those sleeve things.
Pantyhose sleeves.
But then taped his hands up like CM Punk used to and had the X on there. And he was like, no. Because like CM Punk used to go like this. No. How could you go ahead and do that to you? He was distraught. I mean, he legit, I think, thought this stuff was real.
He didn't know yet.
And I'm looking at Dom and another guy that we went with, Taylor Ronan, who was our boy, was with us. And Ronan never really got into wrestling like us, but we took him with us because we were like, dude, I'm telling you, you'll love this. And I'm looking at Ronan to the right of me, and he's like, what is going on right now? And then Dom starts egging him on. Well, CM Punk loses, and this guy is crossing his hands, literally crying while this is happening, while he's getting paid. He's like, I can't believe this would happen. Like, that dude's life was ruined.
This is back to a true or false question for you. True or false, you once went 7 days in Fargo without drinking any water. Not as a competitor, as a coach.
Yeah.
Only Bang energy drinks and a few others, but we won't get it.
That is true.
It was impressively bad.
I was hurting.
But he had said he wasn't going to until it was over, and he didn't. And then when it was over, you're getting ready to drive home, like day 7 or 8. I'm drinking water for the first time since we've been. It was
the same year I called into my job and told them I had a fake staff
Yeah.
so I could stay at Fargo for 2 more days.
Dang it! I forgot. I was gonna show the audience the famous airbed too, but I'm not going to. I'm not gonna blow it up. Just so you know, he's also slept on an airbed the entire time at Fargo. The years that we've stayed, which is like 4 or 5 years in a row now, for like the entire 10 days. And the airbed is one that I've literally had since like the year 2001. Still works.
Now I have scoliosis.
No, that's from all the trips Randy took you on back in the day, where they made you sleep on the floor with 10 other people in the room. This is multiple choice for you. Are you more likely to lose A, your keys, B, your wallet, C, your glasses, or D, all of the above?
Well, probably D, all the above. I seem to lose all of them at the same time, especially at Fargo. I don't know how, but I lose my keys and my wallet almost every day. I can walk in to anywhere, set them down. I think I like play a trick in my head. I'm like, oh, nobody will find them here. And then I don't find them. So
It's the best hiding spot.
which it turns out to be because I never find them. So
When I wrote these questions, just to give you guys an idea how long I've been trying to get you to do this show with us. We're sitting at the kitchen table here. But I was leading you with this question. I wrote, what person in the world, if you could meet anybody who's still alive, would you want to meet? When I wrote this question, Tiger King had just come out. And I knew what the answer was going to be, but it's been like a month and a half now, so it's really not.
well, I just want you guys to know that I actually did whenever that came out because I was so obsessed with it. And I was so obsessed with Joe Exotic. I have a Tiger King shirt. But I want you guys to know that when that first came out, I haven't told anybody this yet.
Oh, good.
I
We got
haven't told you
exclusive.
guys this yet because I thought it was kind of embarrassing because I've never done it before. But I actually did research and look into in the prison that he's in down there in Oklahoma, what the visiting criteria was, because as you guys know, I'm down to drive wherever. I was going to make a road trip down there and visit Joe Exotic just because I wanted that to be like
A quarantine experience.
him across in the little jail cell and me on the phone like this and snapping a selfie so I could send out to everybody. But they wouldn't have allowed me in
Oh, you
So-
researched and it was a no-go?
It was a no-go. So
Pen pal, maybe?
I thought about that, but it wouldn't be the same effect.
No,
So-
you can't snap a selfie with the letter handwritten. Well, that was pretty much all I had. Jesse, do you want to throw anything else out there?
No, I think just close it out the same way we always did. Just tell us.
I just made him tell us 20 stories.
Yeah, but
well, there you
just,
go.
you know,
That's fine.
tell us a good. You know, we've talked about some of this more serious stuff and the trips and stuff. Tell us a good, unique story that sticks out from your time in wrestling
Appropriate for the
Yeah.
children.
for public consumption.
Man, I don't know.
Everyone says the same thing. We go, oh, oof.
I mean, what
It can
It doesn't even have to be
anything.
funny.
It
What's
could be
this?
funny? Could be just something that was impactful.
Yeah,
you know, or just a
meaningful
unique
or random.
unique to
Yeah.
wrestling trips, stories, any of those things.
I mean, I can tell you, well, I'll tell you guys this one since you guys have had him on the show. But Pritz, he's one of my all-time, best coaches. But there's kind of two stories to the whole deal. When I was getting recruited, I just never answered my phone. Kind of like I don't answer my phone.
Nothing's changed.
If you text me, I'll answer, but I don't like talking on the phone.
Don't even try.
So
Only for Reggie or Randy if love knows.
they had tried and tried. Mizzou had tried and called me, and I just wasn't picking up. And then Fritz, he just wouldn't stop. He just kept calling multiple times every day. Finally, my mom was like, either you answer and tell him you're not going there, or you answer and talk to him. So I answered. I can still remember. I answered, and I'm pacing back and forth in my room. And Fritz was like, "Oh, didn't think I was going to find you, did you? Huh? I was going to give up." And I was sitting there, and I'm like nervous, but also find it funny, trying not to laugh. And I'm like, "Oh, I don't know." So he's like, "You're coming down on a visit this date." So I'm like, "Oh, okay." So we set that all up. Like, that was kind of my introduction to Mizzou. Well, we get down there. We're going on the recruiting visit, and it was like the first thing when we go in and shake all the coaches' hands, and I'm talking to Pritz and all of them, but Pritz like shakes my hand, he pulls me off to the side, and he has that little like rat type voice, and he's like, "So what do you think?" And he uses a couple of explicitives there that I won't say on here, but he's just, I mean, berating me with cuss words. My parents are like right behind me. I mean, my mom and dad, they definitely hear everything. He's just berating me. So, I mean, he's just talking to me like I'm like one of the guys, like I'm his boy. So that happens the entire trip. Well, I can remember thinking as I was leaving, I was like, man, I want to wrestle for that dude. Like, he just treated me like I was like, he had known me forever. Like, I was one of his boys. And I can remember going home, and we're in the car, and my dad's like, man, you might not want, he didn't say you might not want to. He's like, that Pritz, he cusses like a sailor, huh? And I was like, yeah, he does, like nervously. Because I had grown up in a Catholic school until high school, and they think of me as a good little Catholic boy. And I was like, oh, yeah, my mom's sitting up there. And my mom turns around, and she just looks at me, and she starts laughing. She's like, I think that's who you should wrestle for. So from then on, that's when I was like, man, I'm going to Missouri wrestle for fucking Lee Pritz. That's who is going to be my boy.
Tried to pull it at the end. He couldn't do it.
Yeah, I just tried to pull that. I like it. I'm sorry. So
it's all good. Well, just so everyone else knows, we're just going to go in the living room and watch TV together now. So it's good.
What about you guys though?
Oh man.
I'm going to ask you guys, what do you think is each of your favorite interviews so far? Because, you guys have had a lot of big names on here. I was telling you guys the other day, I was lifting with a couple kids, and Ethan Meir and GP and Brooke Cox, and they're like, man, Jesse and James have gotten some big names on there, huh? And I was like, yeah.
Props, Coach Hag.
So you guys have interviewed multiple big name guys in the wrestling community, and now everybody is trying to emulate you guys, whether they want to say that they are or not. USA Wrestling now is trying to do Zoom meetings. Bader on Flow is he's doing Zoom meetings, which when you think about it, it's like, well, why weren't you doing this before? It's literally this easy, you know? But there's tons of people that are trying to emulate you guys. I think of you guys as kind of the first ones to start it. Who do you guys think, who was your favorite interview and why, I guess?
It's hard when in the moment, because when you're doing the talk and everything, you're like, oh, you're just going through it and talking basically, and then so I did like several of them for different reasons, and I wish that we could. I am going to at some point, maybe when this quarantine's over, it's summer. I'm going to splice together some pieces from different ones and like show the common thread, because I think it kind of creates like a whole story. Actually, once you put them all together, I've been thinking about as I go. Like I said, after doing like 30 of these, I was like, Jesse, there's like common threads that keep coming up every time, which is, all right, this happened, kind of a non-linear thing, and then this is how I reacted to it. Or the other one is, if from a coaching point of view, everyone requires something different. So there's been like good pieces I liked about a lot of them, not even just like big names or just, but I don't think I told him this, but this is a good story for people actually. But the Kinsey McLean one, at the time we were doing it, we just kind of not throw it together, but like we didn't like plan it out days in advance, right? I was kind of having like a downer day or whatever, just not really, I don't know, just wasn't like one of my days, I guess. This happens sometimes. And Jesse was like, well, first of all, Reggie was like, who you guys going to talk to today? And I didn't answer back. I was trying to do work. And Jesse's like, oh, we don't got anything planned today. And he's like, James is slacking. And I was like, Reggie. No, I was, then after I got done with doing work on the computer, Jesse was like, hey, we're going to talk to Kinsey at 4. And I was like, okay, that's cool, whatever. And so we talked to Kinsey. It was good. And after we stopped recording this one's like the most real life of what we do. We just talk to people for like an hour on Zoom afterwards. So that was all good. And then, I was like, all right, that was good. It was a good story. It meant something, to him, and it was a good story in general. And then they started, going on the podcast format, and I was driving home, and I swear I'm not that egotistical, but it was like 12 at night. I was like, I'm going to plug this in and see what it sounds like. And his was the one that came up, and listening to it a second time, it like hit me like emotionally sort of, because and it was the part about just trying to not just be good at one thing, trying to be good as a father, coach, working, student, because that is like how I want to approach life. So that one hit me pretty good. And I was like, I think people should, I wish more people were able to approach things like that, not just be isolated to like, oh, I'm really good at, this one thing. You can be good at everything. You may not be like, or at least you can try to be good at everything.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Not saying everything in the world, but everything you do, you can try to do it the best you can. You can try to be the best father or friend or coach or whatever, teacher, whatever, because I related to that. So I liked a lot of them, but that one actually, I listened to it a second time and it hit me different a second time. And it was like, and also it made me realize like, oh, these conversations are good and worth having, because sometimes we're like, all right, let's do Zoom, it's whatever, But I think these conversations have been worth having, actually, especially, why everyone's stuck in the situation there right now. I think it's been good for people to be able to see people they know too, and just kind of feel like we're together, feel like we're, talking to friends, So
I think that's been a big part is, guys like Kinsey, ex-Mo West guys that you guys have interviewed. I think aside from the big name guys that people are like, oh, I want to see what these guys have to say, those guys are great, and they've reached the pinnacle, like a guy like Bill Zedek has reached the pinnacle of coaching or wrestling by being in the position that he's in. There's little nuggets though, and there's a whole completely different point of view and more common road that, the majority of us will take when you sit and you listen to like a Kinsey McLean.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it is good that you guys have done both
Yeah.
ends of the
One of the other cool
spectrum.
things I'll say is that, like, talking to brands who we've never talked to before, talking to Bill Zach who never talked to before, those guys were totally cool too. It wasn't like, all right, I'm doing you guys this favor, do this thing. It was, so my point is, like, that's maybe a really cool thing about wrestling in general. Like, we couldn't just talk to Phil Jackson, probably
Yeah.
Phil Normal. Maybe he'd be cool, I don't know. But the point is, I'm saying, like, we were talking to Bill Zadek, and like I said, we pressed stop after recording. We joked around with him, talked for, and he's totally, he's a normal guy. Same with Brands. If the thing hadn't started cutting out, he would have kept talking. And it was Easter Sunday. Didn't care. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like there's no ego needed. Just people that care about the same thing. Whether they are in the head coach of Iowa or a guy that's in college right now that we've talked to or whatever. It's been like reaffirming about people, I think. So
Yeah.
what do you
About
think?
you?
I think that the whole thing's been pretty fun. We just started as a joke, obviously, with the real Tiger King story. And then, but I'm glad that we've done them all because, like you said, you're getting a little something from everybody that you talk to. And I think it's been like a sense of normalcy. Sometimes the best parts have been the stuff that we didn't record, getting to hang out with them and talk with them and catch up with them and everything. But probably my favorite one was getting to talk with Mab and Hag in Glasgow, not being from Missouri, but then, having come here later in life, getting to learn about their programs a little bit more, how they built what they had, and everything like that was really cool to get to learn more about what you grew up in and what all my friends grew up in and around, and getting to hear them tell their side of it was awesome. I really liked getting to talk to Glasgow in that capacity because I've just always, he's been a ref and I was a coach. And so, there's a bit of a professional line there and everything. I respect him and everything like that, but you don't get to have those conversations. So it was really cool to get to have those conversations with those guys. And, for my 2 cents and what it's worth, I don't think there's 3 guys that have done it much better than those guys. And so to get to hear some of the, answers to the questions that James was asking about building the program and everything like that was huge. I pulled some things I'd never even thought of before out of those conversations, wrestling wise. And so that was probably my favorite one because you're almost you could sit there and listen to those guys talk about Missouri wrestling all day. And it reminded me of kind of sitting around with my dad and his friends too. So I learned, but it was also really fun and enjoyable. So that was my top one.
It's pretty amazing that 3 guys like that would be willing
Right.
to come on and share that kind of stuff because not a lot of times will 3 guys like that who, I'm sure all 3 of them think they are or were the best high school coach in Missouri, and better than the other 2. And there's that competitiveness between all of them, but yet they're able to put that aside
Right.
and come on and tell those stories. So that was.
They all threw each other a lot of love. I think honestly, like we're outsiders viewing it. We kind of joked about this in the Jacob Beck one. Like most of these people that do this stuff together year round or partially year round, we got a relationship. You know what I'm saying? So like, people saw Glasgow and Hag and Mab in the context of being a high school coach. But those guys spend a lot more time together outside of the high school season and in high school season too, but doing stuff. So yeah, that's again going back to the whole was full circle, man. People don't see what happens behind the scenes; they just see what's out there. But there's relationships there. There's a lot of relationships there. So
The only other question I was going to ask you guys was if you could interview anybody in the wrestling community, who would it be and why? So if you got your choice of anyone,
It's tough.
That is
I mean, they could be, cross seas, they could be Russian, European, doesn't matter. Anybody you wanted to, who would it be and why?
This is more current than like an all-time person I would talk to. Someone I would, and I think we could probably get him, to be honest, if we wanted to. But I was thinking about this last week as like the person who's building of programs in wrestling, and also I think he's like technically probably one of the best at showing technique and just a smart guy, but an interesting, talented guy. But right now I was thinking it's like, should I get Kerry Collat? I would like to talk to him because he, I just think all of his stuff is pretty good right now. He's taking interesting situations on, not just like the obvious. Again, he's really good, right? But his path is not a straight line.
He's at a wild path.
Yeah, I think that he'd be interesting to pick his brain, even though I know a lot of stuff's out there, but we tend to get more interesting thoughts out of people sometimes just from this, I feel like, informal thing. So that's not like all time, but that's like I was thinking last week. It's like I'd like to talk to him about stuff. So
I think I'd like to talk to Bruce Burnett not because he's been, like the head of Olympic coach and stuff. Obviously, that's part of it, but he had what we talk about on here a lot, which he had a really non-linear path to that position. And I think he didn't have the wrestling pedigree, really. I think a lot of people don't know, like, he was just coaching in Idaho.
Almost kind of a nobody.
Right.
And
then he worked,
worked his way,
Yeah.
got appointed to the
Right.
U.S. team coach.
a lot of people point back to him too. And, for a guy like me, that makes, like, I've looked up stuff about him before too, because like in wrestling, people do get pretty invested in like credentials and stuff like that, which is fine. People earn those. But for a guy like me, I was like, all right, I'd like to pick this dude's brain because, that's more like not the U.S. level stuff, but that's more like my path. You know what I'm saying? Finding where your bread's
talks
better.
about him.
Zadig talked about him. I mean, it was just, I think Cole, I talked about him before whenever he's done stuff. So, yeah, I mean, that would be a good one. We should work on that.
Which I think both of
We
those
can
guys would be guys that you guys could get.
Yeah,
That I think would be sweet.
it's a good idea for the future. And we'll keep talking to our friends because I like that. Maybe we'll even talk to them and not record it sometimes too. We'll see. We'll see. These better stay interesting. So, all right, it's been a long one. By the way, this is pretty much just what goes on in all the time anyway for us. So, anyway, this is show number 31, by the way. So,
31.
I
I was going to hold out till I was number 50, but
he'll be back.
I'll hold off.
Yeah.
We might do a call-in show where multiple people jump on then.
Right.
All right. Peace.